LA Mayor Karen Bass sits down with her first interview since the big fire. It is not impressive. I'm Doug Tenaple in exile. It actually reveals a lot about how the left will not take personal responsibility. And, where I'm from, it's the buck stops here. If you're in leadership, you don't blame down, you don't look for blame for everyone else. You take responsibility for what you can do. Welcome to the Doug Tenaple channel. As we take a look at the Karen Bass, this should be her exit interview for her job.
When I talked about it with the fire chief, what she said is that we have warnings of Santa Ana winds a lot, but predicting this, and you saw, from the city, from the county, that level of preparation really didn't happen.
This is her first excuse. How could we predict this? Meaning it was too big to predict? Well, I've got news for everyone about the future. You can't predict the future. But that's what being prepared means, is you wear a seatbelt, not because you think you're going to get into an accident every day, but that you could get into an accident and you can't foresee what kind of accident you're going to get into. So you practice what's called caution. It shows a level of humility about the future, which she does not have. She's like going, hey, no one could have predicted what happened. It is your job to predict the worst case scenario when you're the LA mayor and you have high winds, dry, fire warning. She got warned, and then she just didn't listen because she didn't have humility about what could happen in the future.
So it didn't reach that level to me to say something terrible could happen and maybe you shouldn't have gone on the trip.
Why didn't it
But to
happen?
me, I don't know. I mean, I think that that's one of the things we need to look at. So
Okay, now she's going to investigate. This is the biggest excuse of this that's the big grab quote. We need to look into that. We need to investigate why I wasn't warned enough before my trip out of the country during high winds. I think the investigation ends right there with the woman sitting in that chair. You're not responsive enough. You're not responsible enough. You're not humble enough about the future. You were warned plenty. And your investigation, just something tells me, guys, we're going to take a guess. What do you think her investigation is going to shake out? They're going to do a big investigation on why she wasn't warned enough by other people that were supposed to warn her harder. One thing I know is the investigation that she's going to launch will not come out with it being her fault, showing any negligence or not listening enough. Something tells me that is not going to be because she'll come to the conclusion of that investigation and go, holy moly, I was the problem. I guess I better step down. That's the conclusion of the investigation.
investigations are taking place. One internal to the city, and that's the Fire Commission, because that's mandated by the city charter. So the commission will hire an outside entity to examine everything, the pre-deployment, why were firefighters sent home,
Why did you send home firefighters? They're going to do an investigation by an outside entity. Will the outside entity be Republican or Democrat? That's all I want to know. Will it be liberal? Will it be an outside entity, a normal bureaucrat that gave to the Kamala Harris campaign and has a vested interest in getting you reelected and covering up for Gavin Newsom, covering up for Kamala Harris, and not making any Republican that's ever criticized California look like they had a legit concern? Are they going to go and look at who shut off the water before Trump turned it back on? Are they going to look at who launched the DEI hires? Are they going to go into the Biden administration? No. That outside entity, which she is using as an excuse to get us off her tail, say, hey, get off my tail. We're going to get this thing investigated by an independent entity. I want to know names. I want to know their political affiliation. I want to know where they're from. Get an entity from Florida. Let's get Ron DeSantis's group to come in and do an investigation from Florida and say, don't politicize this. Just tell us where it all went wrong. She's not going to do that because they don't want answers. And if they don't want answers, they don't care enough about LA residents, human life, organic life, animals, housing structures, business, the very fabric and structure of LA civilization. She doesn't care enough to do anything about it. And that is what bugs me about these bureaucrats these robot apparatchiks. They're just on complete autopilot from the last 20 years. And now they hit a brick wall and she's still trying to sprint after smashing her face in the brick wall. They're still trying to keep sprinting through it on the same energy that they've been running on for 20 years.
All of that should have taken place that didn't. And then also the governor has contracted with the Fire Safety Research Institute.
Oh, thank goodness. Gavin Newsom got the Fire Safety Research Institute. They got some experts in with fire safety. See, why didn't he call the Fire Safety Institute the week before the high winds and the fires, when everyone was going, wow, these are high winds, it's fire season. And by the way, there were fires already started before she went. And now suddenly they invented a new, guys, everyone rest. Do they have a time machine at the Fire Safety Institute so they can go back in time and do something about it? They better have a time machine. Otherwise, this is a wasted effort. The Fire Safety Institute. Something tells me the Fire Safety Institute is not going to come up with a conclusion that says you should cull all fuel, burn up or cut all of the high grass and chaparral growing up in those mountains to reduce fuel, cut down dead timber that's been eaten out by beetles, by foreign beetles. Something tells me they're not going to come up with that. Start logging. They're not going to come up with better start logging that forest that comes down to the mountain. Something tells me that the Fire Safety Institute's not going to say, build the reservoirs that you were paid billions of dollars to already pay for. Something tells me that's not going to be the answer. It's going to be more organic farming, farmers markets, blow up dams, have lower volume, even lower volume toilets that can't flush human poo in LA, rationing water. These people, it's infuriating because I love California. Back to Karen Bass, the alleged LA mayor.
Which is a national institute that investigated what happened in the fires in Maui. So everything that happened...
And did we get any answers in Maui? Wow, they did a bang-up job investigating Maui. Maui burned to the ground.
Including that needs to be examined. But I will tell you that I felt absolutely terrible not being here for my city and not being here for my family.
Oh, she felt terrible. This is one of those things where feelings trump truth. She just told you. I felt terrible. You felt terrible. That means you're a human being. That's good that you felt terrible. What are you going to say? I felt good? I felt good about not being here. I felt good about not being with she goes, I felt terrible. That's not even news. That's not an explanation. You felt terrible, just like the rest of us. Did you feel regret? Did you feel responsible? No, those feelings never occurred to her. That's why I don't want to know what you feel. I don't care what you feel. I don't care if you feel good or terrible. I want to know what you're going to do, like resign. Would tell me how terrible you feel.
Who was impacted by the fires as well. And so when I say it was a mistake, absolutely, the idea that I was not present was very painful.
You were not present. Only because of her feelings, not taking responsibility. She said, do I think it was a mistake? Yes, I felt terrible that I was not there. My family was hurt by me too. And so you're supposed to have compassion for her because she even hurt her own family. I'm a fellow victim of me also, guys. Don't forget, have some compassion. No, you get nothing. You step down. You lose. There is no second place prize. Second place is a set of steak knives and the rest of you are all fired. I'm Doug in exile.